Things are going from bad to worse for United Airlines. A former United Airlines customer is claiming staff once threatened to handcuff him if he didn't give up his seat to make way for a higher priority traveler. High-flying businessman Jeff Ferns came forward with his story after the forcible removal of a passenger from a United plane on Sunday. Ferns paid $1,000 for a first-class ticket from Hawaii to LA last week, but was then told to get off the plane. The finance executive said United staff told him somebody more important had showed up at the last minute, and if he didn't budge, they'd remove him by force. Ferns was eventually downgraded to economy and placed between a married couple who refused to sit next to each other and argued for the entire 6-hour flight. Back at home, Ferns asked United for a full refund and a $25,000 donation to the charity of his choice. As the LA Times puts it, that's how rich guys do it. United turned down both requests and instead offered Ferns the difference between the first-class ticket and an economy ticket. The airline then got in touch a week later to offer a $500 credit for a future trip, but Ferns said he would never fly United again. This latest PR blow to the airline comes in the wake of the forcible removal of passenger Dr. David Dow from a Chicago to Louisville flight on Sunday. On Wednesday, United offered a full refund to everyone on that flight and said it would no longer get the cops to remove passengers from planes that were too full. What's more, Chicago's Department of Aviation said 2 more officers involved in the removal of Dow had now been placed on leave pending an investigation. 3 officers in total have now been placed on leave. Meanwhile, attorneys for Dow filed an emergency request with an Illinois state court to force United to preserve video and other evidence related to the removal of their client from the plane, which in all likelihood means the lawyers are preparing a huge-ass lawsuit for damages against United Airlines. Say no to safe spaces on YouTube. Support Tomo News at patreon.com/Tomo News. United's reputation has taken a serious nosedive. Revelations about United Airlines passengers' past are totally irrelevant. The forcible removal of a passenger from a United Airlines flight has been a PR disaster for the world's 3rd biggest carrier. But it's the colorful past of passenger Dr. David Dow that's come under a predictable media spotlight from sleazy tabloid newspapers. As highlighted by the likes of the Daily Mail and the New York Post, a Dr. David Dow was convicted in Kentucky in 2004 for prescribing drugs to patients in exchange for sex. And they just couldn't resist harping on the juicy details, like how the married doctor was also allegedly batting for the other side. Some commenters online have questioned if it was necessary for the media to drag up the doctor's past, and we would have to agree with them. Others debated whether the doctor with a criminal history and the doctor manhandled off the plane were even the same guy. Now, here at Tomo News, we don't have the budget or time for that kind of investigative journalism, but we'd guess, based on the evidence we've seen, that the 2 men are one and the same. Some people are now accusing United Airlines of running a smear campaign against the doctor. We're not so sure they are. For big stories like this, the media always does some digging into the background of the central characters, regardless of whether what they uncover is relevant to the issue at hand or not. For example, it's also been revealed that Dr. Dow trained as a chef and made serious bank as a poker player, which seemed like pretty positive qualities to us, rather than part of a smear campaign. In the end, none of this really matters and is a distraction from the real issue. Everyone has a past, and we seriously doubt whether the cops who removed Dr. Dow from the plane knew anything about his. The only thing that matters is whether the force used to remove the passenger was justified, and that looks like it's going to be a matter for the lawyers. In the words of the doctor himself, the guy just wanted to go home.
To go home. I have to go home. I have to go home.
United Airlines drags passenger off flight. United Airlines is facing yet another PR disaster. That's after this footage of a bloodied passenger being forcibly removed from a flight went viral. The man was dragged from his seat as the plane sat on the tarmac in Chicago on Sunday, bound for Louisville, Kentucky. It all kicked off when United needed to get 4 staff members to Louisville, but then realized the flight was already full and no seats were available. Passengers who volunteered to give up their seats and take a later flight were offered $400 in compensation and a free hotel stay. But even when that offer was doubled to $800, there were still no takers. That's when United decided to choose the volunteers themselves, and 4 passengers were randomly bumped from the plane. One couple left the airplane without incident, but the man in the video refused. He said he was a doctor and needed to get back to Louisville to see his patients. United staff told the man that security would be called if he didn't get off the plane. Again, he refused, and that's when things got physical.
No, this is wrong. Oh my God, look at what you did to him. Oh my.
While this incident was undoubtedly brutal, United is within its legal rights to overbook flights and to remove passengers from their planes. They just have to pay compensation of up to $1,350, depending on the length of the delay. 10 minutes later, the passenger ran back on the plane looking confused. Eventually, all the passengers were made to deboard and go back to the gate while the plane was cleaned up. The plane eventually arrived in Louisville 2 hours late. In a statement, United Airlines apologized for what they described as an overbooking situation, but didn't say sorry to the passenger who was dragged from his seat. In an email to staff on Monday, United CEO Oscar Munoz said the man was disruptive and belligerent. The Chicago Department of Aviation says the security officer who dragged the passenger out of his seat has been put on leave, pending an investigation.
Entitled Flyers Fight grounds flight over knee defender. A United Airlines flight from Newark to Denver was diverted after 2 passengers got in a fight over entitlement to reclined seats. A man in the middle of the 12th row on United Flight 1462 used this device called the knee defender to prevent the woman in front of him from reclining. The man wanted to use his laptop, which would have been difficult if the woman reclined. But with Knee Defender, you just lower your tray table, then place the tiny plastic chocks on the arms. Now you can use your laptop in peace and even recline while you do so if you wish. The flight attendant asked the man to remove the device, but he refused. They couldn't decide who was more entitled, him to use his laptop or her to recline her seat. Especially since they both paid for Economy Plus seating, meaning they already had 4 more inches of legroom than the other sardines packed into coach. The flight was diverted to Chicago after the woman threw a cup of water in the man's face. Then they were both kicked off the flight and the plane continued to Denver without them. The FAA has not banned the Knee Defender because it doesn't pose a specific safety risk. But they might change their tune after one angry passenger makes the flyer 1 row back swallow them whole. What's your take? Who do you think was in the right?
Say no to safe spaces on YouTube. Support Tomo News at patreon.com/Tomo News. Flight attendant pulls a Steve Slater. In a bizarre move, a United Airlines flight attendant deliberately deployed the emergency evacuation slide after a flight from Sacramento, California landed at Houston's Bush Intercontinental Airport on Monday, April 4th. According to a United Airlines representative, the incident took place around noon after Flight 1246 landed. The flight attendant deployed the evacuation slide, threw her bag down, and jumped out, walking away as if all was normal. Meanwhile, in the back of the plane, a man was having trouble breathing and needed to be escorted off the aircraft. The move is reminiscent of an incident in 2010 when JetBlue attendant Steven Slater dramatically quit his job after arguing with a passenger and fled via the plane's emergency exit slide. Neither the police nor the airline have revealed why the United Airlines attendant decided to leave the plane in such a dramatic fashion. The United Airlines plane is back in service, but the flight attendant remains off duty. United Airlines passengers feel the squeeze. United Airlines has confirmed it will retrofit some of its Boeing 777 jets to include 10 abreast seating in economy. The airline will reconfigure coach class in 19 of its Boeing 777s on domestic routes, mostly serving Hawaii. United will rip out its current 9 seats in a row 2-5-2 layout to squeeze 10 passengers per row into a 3-4-3 configuration. That means the aisles in economy class will become narrower by around 3 inches each. The new layout will also mean a reduction in elbow room, as seat width decreases from 18 inches to 17 inches. But legroom shouldn't be affected. The only way that would be reduced is if United added extra rows of seats. Capacity on a typical United Airlines Boeing 777 flying domestic routes will increase by 20 passengers, from 344 to 366. International routes on United will retain a 9 abreast 3-3-3 configuration in economy. But the move reflects a growing trend in aviation, with a 3-4-3 layout used on at least some planes by carriers including Emirates, American Airlines, and KLM. According to Boeing, more than half of the 777s it sold last year had 10 abreast seating in coach class. Increased capacity can help airlines raise revenue, which they say keeps fares lower. Adding an extra seat per row is one of the least extreme ideas floated by airlines recently. More out-of-left-field plans have included an Airbus patent for split-level seating, and French manufacturer Zodiac's idea to make passengers sit facing each other in a hexagon layout. Both Ryanair and Chinese budget carrier Spring Airlines have even said they would like to offer standing seats on passenger aircraft. Horrific turbulence on United flight sends 12 to the hospital. Passengers and crew members on board a transatlantic flight were all traumatized after their plane was thrown about by massive forces mid-air. United Airlines Flight 880 was flying from Houston to London, with 220 people on board when they encountered a mid-air scare. The plane hit turbulence just over the Atlantic, which caused it to shake and drop violently. Passengers that had been sleeping moments earlier were now flying out of their seats. Others got cuts and bruises from being banged around the cabin. Despite being just 300 miles from London, the plane diverted to Ireland. 12 had to be brought to the hospital once the plane landed around 6 a.m. Flights in the past have had similarly horrific experiences in the sky, caused by clear air turbulence, and the same may be true for the United flight. Clear air turbulence typically occurs in the cloudless skies of the upper atmosphere. It's mostly generated when a plane moves across fast-flowing air currents called jet streams. Here, high-speed winds and slow-moving air traveling in different directions can cause sudden and violent movements to a passing aircraft. Clear air turbulence is difficult to detect, and likewise hard to avoid. So unless commercial aircraft start strapping on LiDAR technology, passengers will just have to buckle up and hang on.